right, good morning. Today is Tuesday, July 25th. I'm Christina Dillabough, Director of Communications for the Desert Southwest Conference, and this is Tuesday Talks. This morning, we're going to start right away with a quick overview on crisis communications. And actually, I just lost my Zoom menu, so hopefully I'll be okay. If you have a question or want to make a comment, just go ahead and speak up because I've got so many windows open that I don't see my Zoom stuff right now. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to share about you with you is, so this might be the first time that you've heard about crisis communication. So what is it? So I want to talk about two things. One is if something happens at your church, and I'll get into the details about, well, no, let me start over. So basically, from the conference and your district superintendent, every one of our churches has crisis communication support available. You can reach the district superintendent or myself, and we'll contact the other one. The best case scenario would be that you're reaching us both to let us both know that, hey, something's going on at the church and we need some help. So there's that quick specific scenario support that we can provide, but then there's also crisis communications training that is available for church staff, for the pastor, for the volunteers, and I can certainly come out to your church. In fact, when Molly and I, our new archivist / communications assistant, travel to your church, that'll be one of the things that you could take advantage of. I'd want to learn about what's going on at your church, but I also want to make sure that the visit is beneficial to you. So there'll be different types of communications training that I could do when I come and visit that you can request. And then there's also the archives and history training that will be available to you. Molly will have a fabulous time going through your church's archives and let you know what her assessment is of any improvements that may be needed, and provide documentation for you to reference on what documents you don't need to hang on to anymore and which items would eventually move on to our conference archives in different types. For crisis communication training, I'm just going to go over a quick overview about what type of stuff is included. And I think one of the best ways to start is to ask, if you've ever had to talk to a reporter who was looking for information, and if you were the first person that reporter contacted, or maybe a volunteer receptionist, if they were the first person that the reporter contacted, how would you feel about, or how would that volunteer feel responding to that reporter? Especially if it's a controversial subject matter, you want to make sure that you or your volunteer, that your pastor is comfortable. I mean, it could potentially be a stressful situation to talk to a reporter when they're digging up dirt on your church. But if you've got the training behind you and you've got the tools, the bullet point, the talking points, it doesn't have to be so scary, so stressful. So the training that we provide is really, we're calling it the frontline staff training, but that's really, like I said, it's staff, it's volunteers, it's the pastor, it could be the trustees chair, could be the lay leader. It'll be different at each church, and potentially, depending on the crisis that you may deal with, the spokesperson might be a different person too. So one of the first things to identify would be what exactly is a crisis. So there could be a situation where, let's say you're in Pine Top, your church is in Pine Top, and there's a wildfire going on, and your church is near that area, or maybe the church caught on fire. That is and isn't a crisis situation. It's a disaster, really. And so that's dealt with differently than what we would normally call a crisis situation. the crisis part of it, we're focusing on situations that bring your church's ethics in question, that question the safety of the church. Things like that is what we're talking about. It's stuff that would affect the perception of the community with your church, or even within your church membership. Situations where the church membership is not trusting that or qualifies as a crisis situation. A rumor can spread and become a dangerous situation in a church where trust is going to be lost. People just start to assume the worst. And anyway, so let's see here. So when we're doing the crisis training, some of the crisis situations, sorry, I'm going back and forth because I'm trying to remember it all, and I've got my slides in front of me so I can remember some of the things that we covered. So there's the crisis as in a smoldering crisis, and then there's the crisis where you have no warning in advance. The smoldering crisis, that's the one that I really want you to think about right now, to be thinking, what are those rumors that are spreading? Is there a situation happening at your church or that people are asking about that could put the essence of the church in question? Sometimes it's things like, well, the membership is really in an uproar about the United Methodist direction, about theology or whatever. That could be a smoldering crisis. It's not something that happened really quick overnight. It's been going on and there's rumors about it. So that would be a situation to talk, where people are upset, and you could talk to your district superintendent and your director of communications to seek guidance on what to do next. A crisis where there's no advance warning would be something like, we're in the summer, so maybe your church van went to summer camp. You took a bunch of campers over there and there was a car accident. That's a crisis that you couldn't have known was going to happen, but a reporter might call your church to get a quote about that and try to find out anything they can about what went wrong, and who was involved. What is the church doing about it? That sort of thing. So that too, you'd want to contact your district superintendent and director of communications for guidance. Part of the guidance or assistance that we would provide is, so we would do a hold response for whoever it is that is answering the phones, how to collect information from the reporter, and provide it to whoever it is that's going to respond back to the reporter. Talking points for the pastor. In some instances, part of the crisis support is legal advice. So we would involve our conference chancellor. You may need a draft of a letter that the pastor would need to write and send to the congregation, maybe kind of a memo that the pastor would provide for key leaders at the church or for for church staff. So all of those things are, those written pieces, those communications are things that I would assist with. I'd write out a draft and help identify the different audiences that we need to be thinking about to communicate with for that specific crisis. So I'd write out a draft and send it to the pastor for review, because typically that's who we're working with directly is the pastor, but sometimes there's additional people. So I'd send that to the pastor for review. The pastor can use it, edit it, provide feedback like, well, this isn't quite right, and ask for more revisions until finally we're back and forth and they've got something solid in their hands that they're now prepared to use, whether to give a statement at the pulpit, to give a statement to the media, or those other situations, as I mentioned, communication to the congregation or for staff. In some cases, I may be called to come to the church to provide a quick training to the staff. kind of a refresher course, not just staff. I keep saying staff, I mean staff and volunteers, to provide them a refresher course. And part of what's happening during that time, typically the district superintendent is there as well. So we're talking about sharing the facts about what the situation is that happened at the church, and airing out, well, what have you heard, and how to address those comments, how to kind of put an end to those rumors and turn it around in a way where the person that's either spreading the rumor or asking about the rumor understands how this isn't helpful, and here's what we can do instead. What else? Then there's typically, after everything is all done, the articles are out or the TV news is done, if that's the case, then afterwards there might be kind of a review of how did it all go, what needs to happen. In some instances, part of the crisis response, let's say it was something where safe sanctuaries training hadn't been happening. And so that gets aired out, and we realize, okay, well, something that the church could do differently to help prevent this situation from happening again is to make sure that there's an annual training for all staff and volunteers that are working with that community. It's not always with children. It could be another vulnerable population amongst our community. So, maybe scheduling annual training and or background checks, if that hadn't been done, making sure that background checks are completed before a new volunteer starts participating in that ministry. And so that at the end of it, so part of the response would have included, and the church is now doing this, this, and this. And so after everything's all done, then it's just a matter of making sure, okay, so we said that safe sanctuaries training is now going to happen every year. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to use the resource that we have available? What's the schedule going to be? How are you going to make sure everybody's trained as of whatever date? Things like that. And so it's not just about the communications up front. That's my role. But then with the district superintendent, your church will be working on making sure that whatever things that potentially went wrong to cause that scenario or made it possible are addressed and now revised. So, I mean, you can't prevent everything, but at least you can do your best to try to make sure that the safety of the persons at your church, staff, volunteers, visitors, that the safety is a priority and that you're actually, following through on that. And in case you were wondering, typically with crisis situations, more often, in fact, 2/3 of the times, it's going to be a smoldering situation that you might be thinking about and maybe hadn't ever mentioned because, like, well, I don't want to air out our dirty laundry, or I don't want to cause any problems. Working on a crisis communication plan doesn't mean that you're automatically going to notify everybody and the whole community is going to know and a reporter is going to find out. It's just writing out all those items, identifying who would we contact if this happens, who else needs to know, and if it happens, then who do we need to follow up with afterwards to make sure that those involved persons are informed and know, here's what we're doing to make it right or to improve things or whatever. So it's really a great kind of an organization tool to make sure that you're prepared if this smoldering crisis does become something that is now public media attention, and you have your statement in place, or at least the starter, because maybe by the time it becomes public, there's a slight change in what we thought was going to happen. Here's what actually happened. So, but at least the bulk of the work is already done. So I would highly, highly encourage you, if, for today's Tuesday talk, share this recording, share the notes with your pastor, maybe the whoever it is that would initiate a training at your church. whoever it is that you're thinking of that might be involved or know about a smoldering crisis. Share it with them, tell them about the resources that are available, and they can contact me, Christina Dillabough, Director of Communications, or they can contact their district superintendent to talk about, okay, here's the situation. We'd like to initiate the crisis communication team. And ideally, in some cases, we've done all of this work. We've got all our communications written up, and we ended up not needing it at all. Everything resolved itself, so it was okay, but at least we did the work. We were prepared. All right, so what else? So the crisis plan, it's basically a blueprint on what actions to take in the event that a crisis occurs. The crisis communications training talks about that blueprint so you can see how it would all work, and has some sample response statements so you can see what I'm talking about. But it also has different crisis scenarios and walks through how to address each scenario. It outlines the actions and the roles for the pastor, for the frontline staff, for the different people that would be involved in that specific crisis. What else? You know what else is included when I am working with a church, and especially if a reporter has already contacted the church, I'll also provide spokesperson training. So it's things like what to wear if it's going to be on camera, where to place the reporter, things that you can tell the reporter of, no, we don't want you to stand here in front of our sign. You can put your camera in this area. It's because sometimes it could feel like if a reporter showed up on your campus, that's it. And oh my gosh, okay, we just have to be in front of the camera wherever they set it. And no, this is, it's not really public property where they can be on campus without your permission. So you have every right of asking them to go across the street if they're doing news piece about something that's happening in the community, and so that your church isn't in the background while they're sharing this negative information about whatever it is that happened in the community where your church wasn't even involved. What else? I think that's basically it. But I mean, there's often different little things that are included that's specific with that situation. Like I said, including the conference chancellor, that's sometimes needed. Do you have any questions about what I've shared so far?
Will you have a write-up on this that you can email out so that those of us, I do better when I see the information. Like, I've been listening to you, but to be very honest, I've tuned a lot of it out because I'm like, okay, cool. I can't listen. So will you have like some sort of write-up or something that you can email out to us?
Yes, super brief. I've already got it in my notes. And then, all right, so then let's move on to the next, are there any other questions? Okay, so although your church can request this training when we go and visit. You could also, I've never done the training all on Zoom, but I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I think it could totally work out as a Zoom training. So you don't have to wait for us to schedule a time to come to your church. In fact, reach out to me if you're already interested in getting that training, and we'll try to put you at the top of the scheduling. I'm looking at the possibility of Molly and I going to your church when the Church or Charge conference happens. I'm not sure. I'd love feedback on that. I don't know if that would work out. I've only gone to, when I was a member at Scottsdale UMC, I've gone to the Church or Charge conference there. And actually at that time I think I was staff, because I remember I had to be there for part of it. So I know how it works at SUMC, but then I had to be in the staff office for some, I think maybe I was waiting for people to come or something, because I wasn't essential for being at the session. So that's where I feel like it could work out. If you have to be at the charge conference anyway, you, the communicator or staff person, have to be there anyway, or could be there, and it would be helpful to the church. That would give me the opportunity to talk with you one-on-one and provide training. Maybe if you have a church historian, at that time, Molly would be able to work with your church historian to work on your archives and figure out what needs to happen there. But it may be that the same person that would want to do the communication training or walk me through so I can take pictures of your campus would be the person that manages the archives. So it might not work out. So, we'll figure it out one-on-one with each church. But okay, next item. And actually, since I was talking about archives, and we have a new person with us, the person that you see here with the beautiful red hair is Molly Shannon. She's our new conference archivist and communications assistant. Welcome, Molly. And what else? So yeah, if you have questions about your archives, you can reach out to Molly and ask for one-on-one work for your church archives as well. All right. Now, what else were we going to talk about? UMCOM training. Okay, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Nope, not that button. Top 3. Okay, so the first one. So Resource UMC has all kinds of trainings. One of the areas is UMC training for communications. Some of the ones that are available, as it says here, online anytime, is developing a strategy for communication planning, revitalize your church's social media, communicating about online giving, and what it means to be United Methodist. The one that I want to bring to your attention is this one, revitalize your church's social media. So I'm going to play a quick video first, and then we'll talk about it.
Are your church's social media accounts not getting much engagement? Do you want to learn how to transform them into vibrant and community? UMCOM Training Center can help. Register today for our new facilitated course, Revitalize Your Church's Social Media. We'll give you concrete, doable strategies to audit your church's social media presence and then level it up to increase engagement. You'll work with other local church leaders to reconsider social media through a strategic lens, build a social media plan, and discover fresh new ways to engage your audiences, all while balancing legal and ethical concerns. And you can earn 2.0 CEUs awarded by the UMCOM Training Center. Revitalize your church's social media starts soon, so register today at umctraining.org. That's umctraining.org.
Okay, so that training is $30, and it's running from July 31st through August 25th. Registration closes on the 27th. What else? And yeah, space is limited. So here's some of what they're going to cover. I won't go over all of it because I'm realizing we're taking a little longer than usual today. But check it out. It's only $30 and you can earn 2 continuing education credits. So that's pretty awesome. Then the next item that I wanted to talk to you about is Monday Moments. Oops, let me go back here with Reverend Rachel Gilmore. It's via Zoom, and the topics are starting up again, or every so often on Mondays, she has this Zoom session, Monday Moments. It's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This next one is on July 31st on Mission Insight. Mission Insight is a demographics tool. So it could be something that the pastor wants to use or learn about. It could be something that a specific committee wants to use, maybe your missions wants to use it, or you as the communicator could benefit greatly from understanding what mission insight is, to learn your audience, to learn about the audience surrounding your church. So these are free, and you can find them all when you go through the calendar. You'll find the next one. So July 31st was about mission insight. What is it and how can it help me reach new people? August 7th is about worship with boomers. What trends are we seeing and how do we respond? August 7th. August 14th is about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. How can I engage in ministry to Gen Z and Gen Alpha? And so engage in ministry, but what about use social media? So again, this is something that you as the communicator might be interested in. It's free. If you click on any one of them, you'll access the registration link for it. But I will include the registration link in my follow-up notes as well. So those are the ones that are coming up, but you can also contact Reverend Rachel Gilmore via email to request a different topic for a Monday moment. You know, what is it that you or your pastor or whoever needs help with to reach new people in your specific ministry context? All right, questions about that? Oh, go ahead.
Do we have to register for each Monday's Moments, or once we're registered for Monday's Moments, we're good? It's not very clear on the website, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I thought that you probably have to register for each one, but okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how she does the follow-up notifications. I'll find out. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Because I think I joined the last one she had, and so I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. So I'm going to go ahead and register again, and then if I find out, I'll let you all know.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so then the next one, I'm going to share my screen again, is so the Resource UMC is seeking applicants for the 2023 podcast-a-thon. So that's like a week-long, 2 podcasts a day session that they do, where basically they're raising awareness about your podcasts and through their large communication channels, through their large audience. So if you're interested, if your church has a podcast or your pastor has a podcast, whatever, you can apply. You can learn more, and I'll provide the link to this article, but also right here's where you would click to apply for it. There is a deadline. You have to register by August 15th, and selected participants will be notified by August 25th. Questions about that one? Okay. Then, yeah, thank you all for participating today in Tuesday Talks. If you have any, does anybody have any questions or anything you want to share about what's coming up with your church? Go ahead, Chris.
I have a question. The podcast-a-thon kind of brought it up. We've been thinking about the possibility of maybe getting into that realm. Is there any training about how to do that? Especially like the logistics of step-by-step. Here's how you make a podcast. Here's how you publish it. Here's, you know.
Yes. So I don't have access to training at this moment, but I know that there are, what I'll do is I'll provide links to the articles that I know of that Resource UMC has created, where it is basically step-by-step. Here's what you do. So part of the issue with the training would be that there's so many different ways of creating it. And, you know, I personally wouldn't want to focus on, like, you know, it's similar to social media training, you know, but at least with social media training, most of our churches are using Facebook. Then I think the next one that most of our churches would be using would be Instagram. So it's fairly comfortable to provide a training on those because, you know, you're going to benefit from it and you don't need any special resources for it. For a podcast, you might need special equipment. So I'm also going to provide links to the equipment that not last year, but the year before last, we had some what is it? Communication tools, I guess. It was like these microphones and stuff that were great for podcasts. And I'll provide the name of the church that won that. Rachel Mosier actually is the individual that won it. And she started a TikTok podcast with it. And it's been pretty cool. In fact, I republished some of her TikTok content for this summer's annual conference. But yeah, I'll provide a link that has some guidance on that. Monday Moments session, aging congregations. Yeah, that's a good one. I'll be sure to share that with Rachel. Thank you. All right. So if there isn't anything else, anybody have something to share or ask about? Okay, then thank you for joining me. This is the end of today's